when you're looking at them and you know that they're just saying that so that you'll go away, ask the question. How did you resolve it? And watch them not be able to answer it and know that it was just a defensive answer, a pragmatic answer to the question. And therefore, you can push through that to sit down and get invited in. May I come in? Let's sit down and let's talk about your situation and what we can do. And if nothing else, you can get these properties under contract.
A great book can totally challenge your conventional thinking and change your life for good. However, some of us just don't have the luxury of time of sitting down to read a book. But there are some instances in which we do have that time, and these are perfect times to learn. So we can learn while driving instead of jamming to the same music on the radio, or maybe at the gym. Well, now you can. Dwellynn has partnered with Amazon's Audible to give you, the Dwell listeners, a free book. Yes, a free book. So all you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/Dwellynn and download your free book. This will also be in the show notes. You can click on the link. And if you don't have a book in mind and you say, Ola, I don't actually know where to start with. Well, awesome, because I can tell you one to start with today. It's a quintessential classic. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So download Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and that would basically just take your mind on a different spin. Of course, I'm always open to hear from our Dwell listeners. So email me at ola@dwellynn.com, and then feel free to also give us a rating and review. This really helps us to rank better in iTunes. I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us on the Dwellynn Show today. I'm your host, Ola Dantes. I've got the fantastic Bruce Mack with us here today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your show, Ola.
Yeah, so Bruce Mack is the owner and founder of the Platinum Financing Group. He knows his funding options and asset protection programs are the perfect solutions for business owners to really achieve their financial freedom. Bruce, I know you can do a way better job than I can. So can you just tell our Dwell listeners a little bit more about yourself and kind of what you've been up to lately?
Absolutely. I'm delighted to. Well, first of all, I'm a very active real estate investor in as much as in 1 3-year period of time, I bought, rehabbed, and flipped 160 properties and been involved in over $92 million worth of real estate transactions. So I always like to keep a property going here, a property going there, because I work with so many real estate investors on a nationwide basis. I always want to keep myself current and in the mix. I'm a licensed financial advisor, and as such, we have our financing company where we're helping folks with startup capital and getting them money for their marketing to get their real estate business unpacked and on track. And then we also, as a licensed financial advisor, we're extremely involved with asset protection, because it's not about how much you can make. It's all about how much you can keep, how much you can protect. And having the right type of asset protection can absolutely give you what I call titanium vault asset protection, where you're never, ever going to have to worry about a suit or a judgment. So these are the areas that we focus and key on and work very exclusively with real estate investors all over the country.
That's a fantastic intro, Bruce. I really appreciate that. And I think you mentioned to me that you've done, over 160 flips within a span of 3 years. So I think we can dive a little bit deeper into that. But before we actually get to that, what actually got you started in the real estate game? Take us way back. How did you get started? And why did you get started?
Wow. Well, I think we're all, at some point, we all get very tired trading what we call time for money and having a job, which is the acronym for job is just over broke, and trying to and wanting to crack out of that and get into a situation where there are no restrictions. If we do a study of the wealthiest people in the world, consistently, those people always seem to be real estate tycoons. And my thought was, I wanted to get into real estate because I really like working with people, building something. I've actually done some ground up and done tons of restorations and renovations and rehabs on existing properties. So the idea of putting my stamp on some of the properties that I was working with also excited me, kind of fit the bill in all the different checkmark categories that I was looking to accomplish. So it's been a great ride. And I would highly encourage anybody who's thinking about getting into real estate to get into real estate. The timing's always right, because just like with the stock market, if things are in a soft or hard economy, you're either buying short or selling long, and you're either buying foreclosures or doing flips or whatever it is. You make certain market adjustments. And again, that's a part of the intrigue with the market, because as the market changes, you're not doing the same old stale things. You get an opportunity to move with the market and keep up with the times. So that's really been my story and the why that I got into it, because I really enjoy working with people and helping them out. And many of the people that I've worked with have been pre-foreclosure clients that were in financial distress. They've been behind on their mortgages. And I always try to architect what I call a win-win scenario, where they were getting out of the hot water that they were in, getting potentially cash for keys and or a credit repair, because we have a credit attorney that works with us, and or other things to help the client move on with their life, and or an equity share, and whatever the drivers are. So trying to create a win-win in a market niche is a key ingredient, and something that has been so fulfilling over the years.
So in the beginning stages, Bruce, and can you kind of walk us through maybe one of, those situations where perhaps, the seller of the property, in foreclosure, came to a really creative approach with you guys. So can you kind of walk us through that deal in terms of like, how did you, find that deal, and how did you create a win-win situation, essentially, like you mentioned, for that seller? And, you can also go into the numbers if you want to.
Well, let me tell you about a story with one of my employees that it was a very unusual one. Bill, who ended up being an employee, was a fabulous individual. I used to go out consistently on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays. I develop a pre-foreclosure list with my wife, and that pre-foreclosure list came from any one of the foreclosure lists that are available that you can either get online or purchase online, and just look up. There's a zillion of those lists available, and you want to get a list depending upon where you're working of either pre-NOD notice of defaults or post-NOD, after they've been served with a notice of default. I like to go with the ones that are post, so that they've already gotten a notice of default. They know that that means that they've already received their foreclosure notice, that their house is in foreclosure, and now they've got usually a 30, 60, 90-day period of time to fix it or lose it. And we would go door knocking. So oftentimes we would find abandoned houses, and we would knock the neighbors. Doors to find out where the person went, because they oftentimes know. In this one case, I found the neighbor, and Bill had left. The house is abandoned. It looked gorgeous, and I knew that I wanted to get the house and see what I could do to help the individual. So I gave that individual my phone number and just said, "Look, I'm a solutions provider. Please have Bill give me a call. We're very interested in being your neighbor," which is absolutely true, because if I buy the house, I'd be their neighbor. They liked the idea. They thought that it was a nice enough guy that didn't look like a serial killer, that they actually contacted Bill, and Bill contacted me. Bill contacted me and said, "You know what? You're probably not going to think about moving at all forward on this house, because I have a $150,000 IRS tax lien." And I said, "Bill, tell me about that tax lien." And I, through discovery, found out that he had filed all of his taxes. He just plain and simple, because he was out of work, didn't have the money to pay for those past due taxes. I came up with an idea. I said, Bill, if we could remove the tax liens from the house and get rid of this IRS problem, would you be interested in deeding me the house? He said, are you kidding? Of course I would, because I can't do anything at this point and I've already moved out of the house. So I said, fine, I'm actually going to give you the money, and I'm not telling you to, because I would never suggest to do something legally to somebody. You check it out, but go down, speak to a bankruptcy attorney, and if you should so decide to file a bankruptcy, and if it works out, then we'll figure out a way to have you make some money and for us to also benefit from this scenario too. He did, and then he did file the bankruptcy, and he filed a Chapter 7. And because he had filed the taxes, or he had filed his IRS yearly taxes, even though he didn't pay, and it was over 283 days from the date of assessment, the IRS actually dismissed that $150,000 bill. The tax lien, ultimately, I was able to remove from the house, and ultimately, of the $150,000 worth of equity that was in the house, I gave half of it to Bill, and we kept half of it for our profit. Bill was so excited because it gave him a new lease on life, and we were able to architect a true win-win scenario that Bill ultimately came to work for me and became a door knocker. So it came full circle and worked for me for many, many years. So that was a true story, of course, working with Bill. He was a great, great guy. And that was an illustration of how we really were able to, and how we always try to architect a win-win scenario for people who are in distress rather than taking advantage of them.
Wow, that is a really, really remarkable story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really love the anecdotal, account of that story, because that way a lot of our Dwell listeners can pick and learn from not just the tactics, but also the human side of that story. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
So if I'm a newbie or an aspiring real estate investor, right? And with the age of the internet, do you suggest people go door knocking and trying to speak to, folks that are in pre-foreclosure or even in foreclosure? Do you think it's a good idea these days?
You know what? I think that door knocking, if you've got a very thick skin, because some people will absolutely feel very preyed upon, and because and if you present yourself improperly, if you get too dressed up, they'll think that you're the bank and you're coming to take their house. There's a whole art to door knocking. Can it be good? Absolutely. Is it the best approach? It's certainly one of the top 5 approaches, top 2, 3, 4, 5 approaches. Again, if you've got thick skin and don't mind if somebody's going to be confrontational when you talk to them, and you go into the scenario with an open heart and with a mindset that you're there to help and you're there to resolve their problem and architect a win-win scenario, you're going to be able to get through those people who are going to be curmudgeons and difficult, and you'll also be able to push past the people who say it's been taken care of, it's all resolved. When you're looking at them and you know that they're just saying that so that you'll go away, ask the question, how did you resolve it? And watch them not be able to answer it, and know that it was just a defensive answer, a pragmatic answer to the question. And therefore, you can push through that to sit down and get invited in. May I come in? Let's sit down and let's talk about your situation and what we can do. And if nothing else, you can get these properties under contract, and you can go to your local RIA, your Real Estate Investors Association meeting, and wholesale these properties. even if you don't have the wherewithal, the cash, or the time to be able to take the deal to fruition. So it can be an excellent jump off point. Just to understand that, you know, it's going to take fortitude. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, that's a really, really good word. I really like that, because some of the challenges, you know, people are facing is how can I get started in the real estate investing game. So I think that's a really good summary and a good tactic. So you also said, so that, you know, Bill's story was amazing, but a lot of real estate entrepreneurs will actually take down a deal and do a few flips. One of the major challenges is finding a good contractor. So you've flipped a lot of homes and you've kind of gone full circle. What would you say about, you know, contractors in general, and how do you get a good one, and how do you keep a good one?
Wow. That's a great question. Well, you know, they don't call them contractors for nothing.
I haven't heard that one before.
Well, Ola, there's so many things that can be done to protect yourself against that person. I think it starts with good research. I've had people try to work for me and pass themselves off as viable contractors, and given me bogus references and given me bogus contractor's license and given me bogus accord forms showing me that they were insured. So let's start with, unfortunately, coming from a polarity that you don't believe anything that they're saying, and operate from a guilty until proven innocent place, and you'll be in a better place because of it. Let me give you a for instance. They give you ask them to supply you with their insurance. Great. You'll get an accord form. Great. Call up the insurance company to make sure that it's current. Get their contractor's number. Get on the internet and do your research to see that they are current with their license, and their license has not been suspended. Also, get a listing of complaints or the complete history on them and see how many complaints, if any, that they might have had, which the contractors board, in most cases, they're readily available and you can dig into it. Do Google searches on them. Also do other searches on them, a backgrounder search on them. See if they owe people a bunch of money. There's a number of different ways that you can protect yourself. Call up all the people and ask them and go over and see the jobs that they did. If they did a remodel, or go and meet with them in person. Don't just talk to them on the phone. Go over and see the work that they did. See if it's the quality of work that you would be willing to take on. And make sure that in your contract that it has a penalty clause, and a penalty clause that has some bite to it. And I'm going to say these days, a minimum of $150 a day. Tell them, look, how long is it going to take? Ask them to tell you. And then add a week to that time. Just say, great. So you're saying you're going to be done on the 10th. So let's just say that then starting on the 18th, we'll give you an extra week, which would be through the 17th. Starting on the 18th, if you're not done, that there'll be $150 a day late penalty for every day that you're running late, because I have to pay for my carrying costs. And you put that right into the agreement. Yeah. So you've got the right clauses, the right protection. You've done your due diligence on the individual and their firm. And you also put a minimum amount of people. That's another one. I would put that there has to be, ask them, how big is his crew? How many people are going to be there on a daily basis? Great. Oh, you're going to have 5 people here? Great. Then I'm going to put in, and then when you present them with the agreement, you put in the agreement that during the hours between X and Y, 8 o'clock till 4 o'clock, whatever, there'll be no less than 3 people at the job site.
Wow, these are like really, really great points. On one of our projects, we met a contractor, and he said, and we basically had the penalty clause in the contract, and that was a no-no for him. So obviously we didn't go with that contractor, obviously. So yeah, those are really, really great points right there. And I think you mentioned protection, so that's a really good segue into asset protection. And I really love the way you started. It's not what you make, it's what you keep, right? And it's not just what you make, but what you can protect, right? So can you just tell us a little bit more about asset protection? I guess the first start could be a definition of what that actually means for our listeners.
Well, asset protection is really the ability to protect everything you own. So in the event of suit, even if there's a judgment or a lien, you cannot get garnished, and you cannot have a judgment. You cannot have them collecting. And this talks about any asset. You may have a stamp or coin collection. You may have cars. You may have house. You may own a primary residence with equity in it of $50, $100 or more $1,000. This has to do with potentially rental income property and the liability of being a landlord, and or the liability of having a car and just driving on the street. Heck, my personal family lawyer got sued. He was in a car accident, and they got a very large award from his umbrella, which he had a high limit umbrella, but they really wanted to stick it to him. So above and beyond the umbrella, he had punitive damages of $250,000. Now, I don't know how many people are on the call, but he was able to pay that. But how many of us that are on the call would that absolutely wipe you out or put you in a situation that you could be paying on that judgment and having your wages attached for years and years to come? So having the right asset protection is everything. And we happen to have bulletproof asset protection, so much better than an LLC, a C, or an S, because those are minimal ways to have asset protection is to have an entity. Corporate veils can be pierced easily. Assets can be gotten once the corporate veil is pierced. Having a trust, which is what I advocate, and having a specialized type of trust that we've got with the law firm that we work with, a spendthrift and irrevocable type of trust, this is going to give you titanium vault asset protection. So as you start to amass your empire and you have assets, that you never have to worry about having a sleepless night. Also, with these specialized trusts that we work with, they have huge, in most cases, tax benefits. When I say tax advantages, let's just say, for an example, when you sell a property, you're going to realize the income, it's either going to be short or it's going to be long-term capital gains. With our trust, there are no capital gains. All income goes into the corpus of the trust and is deferred generationally, perpetuitously. And this is a discussion that we need to have on one-on-one basis, that is between yourself and ourselves, where we can take a deeper dive and really lay out the framework of how we can not only give you the titanium vault asset protection, but also a plan where likely, can't guarantee you because each situation is different, but when it comes to long-term and short-term capital gains, for an example, we can defer on those taxes generationally. So you're not going to be paying those taxes. Your beneficiaries are not going to be paying those taxes. Their heirs are not going to be paying those taxes. And that can be an excellent opportunity. In our world, there are no 1031 exchanges because there's no need for a 1031 exchange. This is an exciting topic, something that you'll want to get more information on, and we have that information for you.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm like, wow, this sounds amazing. I've got some rental properties, but they're in my name and, I haven't taken time out to actually, consider asset protection. What would you say is the first step, Bruce?
Again, great question, Ola. The first step is to get with myself. Again, I'm a licensed financial advisor, and get a complimentary consultation where we sit over the phone and we discuss the specifics of your situation. Let's find out what's going on now. Let's talk about some pre-planning. Let's talk about where you are, where you want to go, and let's see how we can design the right program that's going to fit what your needs are today as well as for tomorrow.
Fantastic. Okay. As much as I want to keep going, talking about, asset protection and just keep diving in, we're definitely dwelling into the quick rounds. So these are going to be quick questions, quick answers. You ready?
Go ahead.
All right. First question. What would you say makes you unique, Bruce? What is that differentiating factor that separates you from the next guy or the next girl?
Well, when it comes to trusts, I've been involved with trusts for over 2 decades, and there's a variety of trusts out there, and I've seen countless hundreds and hundreds of trusts. I have never, ever seen a trust like the trust that we have from our law firm, which there are over 30,000 of, and we have the only trust that I've ever seen that are copyrighted, protected. And our trusts not only provide asset protection, but they also provide the tax mitigation component, where I've never seen that in any other trust. So that makes our trust unique in every sense of the word.
Awesome. What was the last book that you read, and what was the one thing you learned from that book?
Oh my gosh. I was at the airport on my way to speak at an event, and I didn't have much time, so I zipped through the 1 Minute Manager when it was at the bookshop at the airport, and that was the last book that I read. So that's what came to mind. It was a great book. It had some really great tips and strategies on working with people and being able to aspire to be a better manager.
Awesome. Final question. You're managing your company, Platinum Financing Group. Like you said, you're out speaking at different events. So of course, I'm sure you're spending time with family. What do you do for fun?
I got to tell you, I love to ski. I used to teach skiing, and I've got an on-slope condo booked for almost 2 weeks, starting the middle of December, going through the holidays in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So that's my passion. My second passion, I should say, is to ski, and I'm really looking forward to getting on the slopes this year.
Fantastic. Have fun. Fantastic. Sounds fun. So if I'm a dual listener and I'm like, wow, I really like what Bruce is talking about. I want to start getting my house in order, and I want to start getting my asset protection in order. What's the best way to contact you and to reach out to you?
Sure. The best way is by email, and just say, I'm interested in booking an appointment, and I can get you penciled in. And you can email me. I'll give you my direct email. It's Bruce, BRUCE, at Platinum, let me spell that, PLATINUM, financing, the active verb financing, FINANCING, group, GROUP.com. Now, some people think that there's not supposed to be the 2 G's from the financing and the group. There are the 2 G's. So again, it's Bruce at Platinum Financing Group.com. I also, because I love to have direct contact with the people that I work with. I'm also delighted to give you my phone. Please, I say, use it, don't abuse it. My direct contact phone is 702-371-2345. Again, that's 702-371-2345. So you've got 2 points of contact, and from that, we'll make a time that works for both of us, and we'll sit down and we'll have a consult.
Thank you so much for giving that out. I really appreciate that, Bruce. I mean, I can't just thank you enough. We learned a lot, even myself, and I'm sure we'll probably get you back on the show at some point in the future. Thank you so much, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much, especially during the holidays. This was a pleasure and a great opportunity for me to share some of my background and some of the stories. Hopefully there's been some impacting with some of the folks out there. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity to come on your great show.
Thank you.